So I want to review the Oscar-nominated short film "The Red Suitcase" by Cyrus Nishvad. And what I want to say is that this, to me, is the best short film and Oscar, my Oscar winner, like the one that I hope wins the Oscar. But I think that all the films that were picked well deserve the Oscar. So it's almost like an A plus versus like an A or an A minus. So what I want to say is that this film is extremely powerful, and it's about this girl who is sold into it's this 16-year-old girl who's sold into a marriage, and she avoids that marriage by hiding in an airport, and then just hiding on a bus. And I would also kind of say that this is just definitely a very well told story. And also, really quick before I start, that we're seeing a little bit of a theme because usually with the Oscar nominated short films, every single year you look at the work that they pick and then there's a theme within it. And I definitely think that there are two themes, that there's a theme of violence against women because right now there's like two films in that group of five that are about violence against women. And I would also say that there's um there's also a sense of victims being emphasized in the Oscar nominated short films because these two films, Evilou and this one, all are about violence against women. And also there's two other ones. One features a character that's special needs, and the other person has a person who's trans, either gender or vestite, and they get victimized. So definitely, there's a theme of groups of people that are treated like victims, and the Oscars does that. So like you have to look at it thematically. But to get into the Red Suitcase, that it's very powerfully told, and I think the acting is the strongest in this. So it starts in the beginning where you see this girl like hold a red suitcase and she's being interrogated by TSA, and automatically based on her clothing, like she has like those hoods that you see Muslim women wear, and she doesn't want to open her suitcase. So what I like about this opening scene is that you automatically think that she is a terrorist because there's that stereotype. What do we think about what's the stereotype of a Muslim person being in an airport and being interrogated by TSA? You're automatically going to think that, oh, well, they may have a bomb on them because of the September 11th stereotype. And then when they open her suitcase, there's a lot of art supplies, and then there's white bags. And then the other stereotype about Muslims and Middle Eastern people is, oh, they're drug mules, and that's actually just like some powder to make paint or whatever. And what I would say is that then I like that because it's subverting your expectations. So that's very strong because you know we all have there's a lot of stereotypes against Muslim people still will happen at September 11th. More people are gonna like think about Muslims as terrorists and fighting against the terrorist stereotypes when there are other more serious issues in the Middle East and in that culture, like sexual slavery or women being sold into marriage. So I think like the movie was trying to tell you visually and through visual metaphors that it's not just the Muslim is a terrorist stereotype. There's also the issue of women being looked at as sexual objects, being sold into sexual slavery or being sold into marriage so their husbands can look like they're good enough to they're good enough to their families because they're able to get a wife. So it was really well told. So like in the airport she's like hiding, and I also like how there's some shots where you see that her future husband is an older man. She's 16 years old, so automatically you get that type of creeper vibes. And also from the conversation, he's talking to her father, who's ironically named Jafar. Um, and he's kind of very upset that he's not getting what he's paying for. So obviously you get a sense that he may have an anger issue. So she's going to deal with that, but also too she's 16, and it's very clear through the whole movie that she wants to be an artist. And she's a very talented artist. And ultimately, if she goes with him, we know that maybe she'll be forced to become a mother and raise the kids. Or because she's underage, maybe she's going to be forced to be a sexual partner for a couple of years. And then when she's of age, she's going to have to start, starting the baby factory. And, fuck her art. It has to be just about, creating, being that mother, creating kids and creating a male child to be the heir. So she doesn't want that. She wants to do what she wants to do, and we can all agree with that. People shouldn't force people to to make babies and be sold into that lifestyle. Everybody has the choice to do what they want with their bodies, but there's other cultures and religions and societal views where they don't believe that. And the other thing that I like about this film is that they do a lot of shout out the field shots. I like how, you see this girl walking, and then it's like, you see this character, her, her future husband, all blurred out in the background. And then also later on in the film, I think the most heartbreaking scene, and this scene is what I think should make this film win, and this actress deserves to win some best acting awards, is when she's hiding from him and she's hiding underneath the bus where they store the luggage. He takes her red suitcase, and you see tears come out of her eyes. And also I like that because with the cinematography, you see a red light on her face just to illustrate the intensity, the danger of the scene. But I love that because she's making a very powerful choice that, she has to not say that's mine, but she's losing a big piece of herself. She's and I also think it's a metaphor for her losing her old life, which means that no matter what, going with him or not going with him, she has to restart her entire life. Because she has to restart her entire life. Is she gonna live on the streets or whatever, or what's gonna happen to her? So so taking away her art and whatever is just saying, maybe her dad sent her to college, maybe her dad bought her those supplies or whatever, but now it's she has nothing. She has to restart her own life. So I think that was a perfect visual metaphor, but it was also a perfect visual metaphor of saying that, well, if she wants her supply stuff and all that stuff that means a lot to her in her artwork that she's been saving for a long time, the thing is that she would have to give up her freedom. And sometimes that happens to people when they have to leave a bad situation, is that whatever that they had in the past, they have to throw down the drain. And that could be heartbreaking, and that could be, some security, or that could just be how, in World War II, where people had to move from Europe and leave everything behind, their art or whatever. They had to bring their bodies and the clothes on their back and get out of the situation. And sometimes when it comes to, what, I want to leave my country, or I want to leave this situation so I don't get sold off into marriage or forced into a relationship that I don't like. I have to leave everything, even if it's something that I care about, or even something that I know is my art or whatever, that they're gonna trash and destroy, because they gotta because that way they can hurt me that way they can hurt me without physically hurting me. So I think that's very, very powerful. And it just made me, like, as I said, I can't cry, but in my head I was like, I was like, like a mental tears. I cried an ocean because I'm like, how cruel, just how cruel can human beings be to each other. And I would really, if I would really wish, and one of my wishes is that, nobody gets exploited or sold into marriage or whatever, and human beings don't deserve that shit. I think that that's one of the most evil things you can do to somebody because you don't realize the psychological harm, and then just what usually happens in those situations is that they force women to have babies, and then they kind of hope that the woman eventually is gonna be like, you know what, it's a kid, he didn't do anything, so we're gonna like just bury our feelings and that be that. So I think it's very sad that we have that in this world, but this film also depicts on how sad and how upsetting it is. So very powerful and very thematic piece. And I always will say that I do favor the Oscar nominated short films that do have contemporary issues like this talked about. So the Red Suitcase, absolutely, absolutely, I hope wins the Oscar. If it doesn't, I would be very upset, but it's not the end of the world. But I think this is the strongest piece because of the acting, the contemporary issue, and also too that even if you looked at the cinematography and everything, it goes so well with the acting. I don't feel it was intentional. I don't feel it was kind of like to be flashy like you saw in the other film that I was reviewing, Eviloo. I think with Eviloo, you see a lot of drone shots, but a lot of people put drone shots in movies to make it look super cinematic. But it's not about being cinematic when you use drone shots or shout at the field or other things. It all that works when you're telling a story. It doesn't work when you're just doing it to be flashy and stuff like that. But I felt like every shot that they chose and every edit that they chose worked well to tell the story, not just be there just to be eye candy. Eviloo, I feel like they kind of did a lot of like drone shots to be like eye candy and everything like that. But the Red Suitcase, very, very strong Oscar nominated short film.